everybody? Great News Podcast. So, with these breaking things going on in the stock market and cryptocurrency, I got a special guest for us that was able to come in short notice to just break it down a little bit, give us some thoughts, pointers here and there, different kind of strategies. And I'm going to talk about it too. I know a little bit about the stock market as well. So, hope you guys like it. With that being said, thanks, Eddie, for coming in and helping us out, man. We appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Yep.
Happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so let's go into it, man. Cryptocurrency is going crazy right now. Everyone's talking about it. It's all over Twitter, all the social. Yeah, man. And I know you've been in it for a minute, ups and downs. Dealing with the volatility of the difference between stock market and cryptocurrency, you got to be a brave soul out there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, crypto, Bitcoin really, since its inception, has sort of been a volatile commodity. And the reason why I'm using the word commodity and not like, stock or technology is because, while it can be used to pay for stuff and business transactions, really is a commodity because there's only a certain amount of it, right? Which is why we see the price kind of taking off right now. We have something called a halving event that's going to happen in the next couple of months where the supply of Bitcoin is basically going to cut in half, right? So that's causing a scarcity in the market for Bitcoin, and which is what's causing the price to continue to rise because a lot of people want to get it, and there's only a finite amount of it. So that's kind of the reason why we're seeing a lot of uptake. But we're also seeing a lot because of a ruling that actually happened not too long ago with the Fed chair, which said that Bitcoin is not, I forgot the correct term, but basically it's not a stock, or it's not something that needs to be regulated, kind of like how the stock market regulates certain stocks. So that allowed it to be placed on the stock market in the form of ETFs, which a lot of people invest in their retirements or just basic tools that people use to invest in. So that's another reason for it. So now you have mass institutions investing in Bitcoin. You have a lot of individuals putting their retirements in Bitcoin. And what's that cause? A lot of people want to get in. And again, there's only a scarce amount of it. So that's why we've seen an uptick in it.
Yep. ETF is exchange traded funds.
Yep.
So, as far as I've seen today that I think Warren Buffett had a thing saying he wouldn't buy all the cryptocurrency in the world for $25. What's your thoughts on that? The people that, it's not backed by anything, so it's not worth anything. You think that's an outdated way of thinking?
That is a very good question. In the general sense, it is a risky investment, right? Because it's not a tangible object, right? Bitcoin is sort of a piece of technology, a piece of software that people have put a value on, right? So it's not backed by anything. Whereas like the American dollar is sort of backed by the US government or certain companies. They have either purchase orders or they have they have some type of bill of ledger where they're actually doing stuff. Bitcoin doesn't really have that. So there is a risk involved in that. And that's kind of the reason why, there's a lot of volatility in it. Personally, how I feel about it, I kind of feel like those notions are kind of outdated, especially with Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum. Those are the two biggest coins, and those are the ones I know for sure are here to stay. A lot of the other coins, which we call in crypto altcoins, are other coins that are used for different things, but they don't necessarily have, I guess, the market share that Bitcoin or Ethereum has, and they don't have sort of like the regulation behind it that allows them to be big coins. So I think there is merit in that. It's not backed by anything. Should we, fully use it? Should we fully invest in it? With anything, I think you should always look at the risks. But I think with the way it's been moving these last couple of years, and this is not something new, right? Bitcoin has been here since the early the 2010s, right?
Right.
And I think, because we've seen that, yes, there is a space for this, right? You may not use Bitcoin, right? You may never use Bitcoin ever in your life, but there are people that do, right? There are people that put value in it. I think that's here to stay.
Yeah, because if you think about it, that backed by gold thing, come on, that's a stretch at this point. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
there's risk in all stocks. I mean, the like the day traders, there are people who got 12 computer screens and all in because of trying to time the market, which is you got to be really good at what you're doing to be able to time the market, right? And you're only going to be right certain amount of times, right?
Right. Right.
And for those people who do the slow and steady wins the race on, the top 500 companies, that approach seems to work out pretty well too. If you don't have a lot of time to focus on the investments, you just do $1,000 every 2 weeks or every month, and then you just look at the end of the year, like a lot of people do. That seems to work as well. For those lower safe, lower safer options as well.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, with any investment, I think people should what we call DCA, dollar cost average, right? You
Right.
should put in, maybe $100 per week, maybe $500 per month, something like that, and just slowly ride that wave, and that always works, right? Especially in the stock market. I mean, I've implemented this rule myself, the 40%. I mean, the 40% traditional stock rule. I would say more heavily on the ETF side, and that's the SPY, which tracks the SP 500, which constantly goes like the things that will constantly go up: the SP 500 and Nasdaq. Right? Just history says the market will always go up. Yes,
Right.
there are times where it goes down. Like we saw when the crash. For the housing crisis in 2008, and of course we had a little bit of a crash because of COVID, right? So,
Right.
but what happens? We pick back up, and so with knowing that in mind, yeah, have the majority of your investments or your funds or your retirement in that, but also play around. Go with Bitcoin, go with Ethereum, because what we know is that Bitcoin and Ethereum or those large cryptos are going to be here to stay, right? And their value is only going to go up in time. And quite frankly, if you look at where we were maybe like in the 2010s, and I think I can share a chart later, is that crypto has gone up, it's outpaced S&P 500 and Nasdaq, right?
Wow.
So yeah. So I definitely, I mean, of course, there are hot stocks that have also done that too, like Tesla, for example, Nvidia right now, which is just completely taking off, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But in general, the S&P 500 grows at maybe 10, 20, 30% per year. But Bitcoin 10 years ago, we were sitting at what, 5,000, 10,000. And now look at we are now where we're approaching our all-time highs of 67,000. I mean,
Yeah, I think it got to 69 today. I just checked it.
yeah.
But it might be back down to 67. I'm not sure. But yeah, so that goes to so we're being diverse, right? So now it's a good time where even guaranteed interest rates, right? I think even Apple has a guaranteed 5% interest rate, stocks and bonds, because of the, it's a good time to even diversify and put a little bit aside for that as well, because that is, I think a couple years ago it was at like what 2%, 1.8. So that's a good time to invest in that as well. So my
well,
go ahead.
also, just to piggyback off of that, a lot of those companies also have what they call dividends, right? So you get a certain amount of money based on how much stock you own, and that's another piece of the puzzle as well.
Yeah. So there's a lot of new cryptocurrencies come out often, right? So what are the key indicators you look for, or do you ever research the new coins out there? I seen that SHIB was came out and it was a newer coin, right? And Dodge, and there's a lot of they're gonna make it, not gonna make it, and then they I was looking at it. They do something with some kind of burn rate. I don't know if you know what that is. I'm not 100%
Yeah.
sure, but that kind of like increases the value of the coins. So what do you?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that goes back to what I was saying with Bitcoin, as there being a scarcity where there's only a certain amount of Bitcoin, right? Sheep, Doge, those types of coins, even now with Pepe being sort of like the hot new thing, they are in a separate category in their own of when it
Oh,
comes to crypto. Those are
okay.
what we call meme coins, right?
Okay.
So they may not exactly have a sort of utility, right? They may not have a certain purpose, kind of like what other coins do, but they're like a word of mouth type of coin where if like, a lot of people get in, the price will shoot up and it kind of drives the market in a way, it kind of drives the crypto market. Like, oh my gosh, look at this, but people and new investors want to get in. So they're in a little separate category in their own, right? Now, when it comes to like new crypto projects, yeah, I mean, one of the things that I always like to do is I always like to look at what they call their white paper, just to kind of look at what they're trying to solve. What's the purpose of the coin? Are they a layer 1 or layer 2 coin? And that's really getting into in depth and things like that. Are they a proof of a stake, which basically means you hold a certain amount of coins and you get like interest based on that? Or are they like a proof of work where you're like, depends on like the miners or whatever, but that's kind of getting into the weeds. So I kind of look at that type of stuff when it comes to newer coins.
Okay.
And there are some coins that I do look at outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum, and those include like Cardano. Solana is a major coin out there that's done a lot of big numbers. You look that up when you get a chance. SOL.
Okay.
Soul for short. Yeah, so there are certain coins I also look at, but the majority of the crypto that I hold are the big players, the Bitcoins, the Ethereums, and I probably have a little bit still in like XRP, which I I'm not trying to brag, but I sort of timed how they were going to take off, because again, this was another ruling by the Fed, where not even the Fed, by the court. They sued because the Fed said they were like illegal, or they were like I forgot the exact term of it, but basically XRP won their case and said that no, this is not a legal token, we can use it or whatever, and that sort of took off, and now that's going to be used more. So yeah, things like that. I always do your research or your history on everything, but yeah, if you take a look and just make sure they're trying to certain coin trying to solve a problem, and you can definitely tell if it's real. Now there are a lot of rug pulls, coins, fake coins that I say, where they will get, they'll bring a lot of interest to it, and then all of a sudden you see like a major, price crash.
Right.
Beware of those. Anytime that you can't get your money out of a coin, that's a major red flag. Like, so for example, if you can buy it on an exchange, or you can do what we call like a swap, like trade a coin for another coin, and you can't get your money out of it, or you can't extract any value out of it, then that coin more than likely is a rug pull.
Okay. So, man, I wish I would have listened to you 10, 15 years ago. I'll tell you that much. All right. So, for someone just beginning, right, would you recommend Robinhood? Um, would you, or Acorn? What do you think about that? Like, for someone just starting out, just trying to get the feel of it, maybe put a couple dollars here and there. What do you recommend for someone?
Well, I mean, if I had to choose between those two, I would recommend probably Robinhood. Although the safest option will probably be Acorn, because what Acorn is that they invest the money for you, right? You
Right.
put in some money, and then somebody else on the back end is doing the investing, and
Right.
more times than not, they're correct in their investments. But with Robinhood makes the game so much easier, right?
Right.
And the fees on Robinhood compared to like other trading platforms, like the ones offered by like JP Morgan or Fidelity, those have higher fees
Okay.
associated to trades and things like that. So Robinhood, they have a lower fee structure, but also most newer investors and new players in this game use Robinhood just because it's so simple. You look up something, you're like, oh, maybe I want to invest in Tesla. type in Tesla, you prick buy, and boom, you own Tesla. And with crypto too, crypto is also on there, so you're not having to use a whole different platform for that, like Coinbase or whatever. So yeah, I think Robinhood for a beginner, Robinhood is probably the easier thing. And with Robinhood, there's a lot of tutorials and people on YouTube. You just type in how to use Robinhood, and you can just watch that and figure that out. The other trading platforms or whatnot are a little bit more complex. Robinhood makes things very simple because it's on your phone and it's easy to use.
Right. All right. Well, I appreciate that. So it seemed like it's benefits both ways. Maybe use them both. Why not diversify? So you had mentioned you have a chart.
Oh yeah, actually, can I don't know.
Let me see if we can. You see the present thing at the bottom.
Yeah. Let me see if first. Let me find the chart, which I basically just wanted to show Bitcoin in comparison to the Nasdaq.
So while you're doing that, right? So let's talk about the last time Bitcoin was everywhere. People were putting mortgages on their houses. Everybody was like, man, I should have invested. I knew it, but and then what was it, like 200,000? I know it was up there. And then it reached, Go ahead.
Yeah, it reached 69,000, I believe, was its all-time high.
So this was the all-time high. So the last time it went up, what was that, like 5 years ago? When it was all over the news?
This was a little bit after our last election. So this was like in 2021, I want to say, or 2022 when it had it had gone up. Yeah. So I guess your question is basically what happened, right? Why did it come down?
If that is answerable, I mean, it's probably a lot of reasons, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons behind it.
I think the original investors were trying to, get out, the ones that have been in there since the beginning. What do you think?
Man, that's such a loaded question because there's like so many different things that happen. So yeah, a lot of early investors got out because they saw the price go up. But there were still a lot of investors that were in it, like MicroStrategies, a guy named Michael Saylor. He's been heavily invested in Bitcoin. But I feel like that really wasn't the major reason. There was a lot of what's the word? There was a lack of regulation behind it, right? So, kind of the Bitcoin back then was a little bit more taboo, right? People would think, oh, Bitcoin is only used by scammers or people that are using like illegal transactions and things like that. And yes, there were a lot of bad players in the space.
I was one of them. I was one. I was like, I'm going with Warren Buffett, man. That's my guy.
Yeah. And people also didn't understand it, right? They were like, what is this? Like, how do I use Bitcoin? Like, what's the purpose behind it? So there was a lot of that. But what kind of sent things haywire, I mean, the very first thing was with this coin. What is it called? Man, I forgot the name of it, but it was a major coin. It was a coin that completely crashed, and it was trading at a healthy rate. And then what happened is that there was some backdoor manipulation. This is what I get back to people doing the research and making sure that when they look at it, there's actually a purpose to this coin. This coin completely crashed and took out so many institutions for it, right? Like a lot of companies that were involved in. For something I can't remember the name of it. I could probably look it up, but that was sort of the first apple to fall. Then came the trading platforms that people were using, like whether it was like Binance or whatever. There was some, like, oh, can they actually match the funds? Like when people take out their money, like can they actually pay those people, right? And the big one to fall was FTX. Now, I know you remember FTX because FTX literally everywhere. They were on stadiums. They were doing so many commercials. They had Super Bowl commercials. And with that sort of took a lot of investors out because a lot of people, especially here in the US, were heavily invested in FTX, and that was
Right.
the biggest crypto trading platform, and a lot of people got burned by that. And
Right.
so that sort of brought in more of the negative stereotypes with Bitcoin and whatever. So what we saw was a few years of just, the coin just staying flat, or just all cryptos really just either flat or going down. But with regulations, right, it gives people sort of like the, this comfortability or this feeling of safety when it comes to like investing in certain things, right? And that was sort of the problems earlier on with cryptocurrencies, that there wasn't really many regulations. And regulation, I've always been a proponent for regulation. I think, as long as there's somebody overseeing, whether it's exchanges or certain cryptos, that's always a good thing, right?
Right. Yeah.
You don't want to just invest in something and turns out that it's like a scam and you can't get your money back. Like, come on, nobody.
Which has happened.
Which has happened, right? But
Yes.
Bitcoin stays strong, right? Because Bitcoin is not like one of those coins where it's the very first one that came out and that there's actually a real solid purpose behind it. So I think with that, and major companies like the BlackRock's getting involved in Bitcoin investing, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and those large investors, they saying like, oh, this is a great opportunity. Like, oh, this is sort of like a hedge against inflation because the dollar seems to be going down and not holding its value, right? Where Bitcoin seems to hold its value more, let's put a lot of money in Bitcoin. And that's sort of that institutional investing, the regulations now behind it, and then sort of like the bad players kind of being weaned out of that space has sort of gradually caused it to go up. But yeah, earlier on, there was a lot of shenanigans, and it kind of reminds us of like the early internet, or like remember when the internet first came out, like how the tech sector was just completely booming. There was a .com for everything, and what we found out, a lot of those companies weren't really doing anything. They were, kind of like scams.
Yeah. Yep. Just clogging domains.
Yeah. And the larger players, or the ones that actually have a certain utility, stayed around, like Google, eBay, Amazon, all those stayed around. And those other ones that, weren't really doing things properly, they kind of ceased to exist.
That kind of answers our beginning question. You say it's not backed by anything. Hey, if it's backed by those companies, it's backed.
Hey, BlackRock manages $10 trillion, which is 60% of our GDP. When they say Bitcoin is an investment that they are going to take very seriously, when they create an ETF because of it, you want to get involved. Trust me. They're not in the business of losing money. They're in the business of making money.
Right. Right. Yeah. Man, I need to get on this. I've been saying it for 15 years.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because I remember when I first got into it, I didn't quite understand. I was like, why this is not going to replace the dollar or anything like that. Like, this is dumb. And while I don't necessarily believe, I'm kind of a skeptic. I don't believe Bitcoin is going to replace the dollar by any.
That's why you own stocks as well.
Exactly. However, I do see the utility in it. I do see the purpose in it. And honestly, I think it's opened up a lot of avenues. Like, for example, like let's say you have a relative in like a foreign country or whatever, or you need to quickly get some type of money, and you may not have access to like wire transfer, or you don't know where the nearest Western Union is. You can just send somebody some cryptocurrency and they can exchange that on their phone for actual money that can just go into their bank account, and voila, you can now go and pay for something, whether it's through like your debit card or credit card, or using Apple or Google Pay.
Yeah. I remember Vegas was like one of the early adapters with that, right? It was kind of you were able to use cryptocurrency years ago down there. I remember that.
Yeah. So Vegas, they adapted it. A lot of the offshore gambling websites use cryptocurrency because there wasn't any gambling. This is another reason why gambling has become so big and mainstream now, right? Is
Right.
because they saw the amount of money people were transacting through Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies to place their sports bets or things like that. And they were like, oh, we need a piece of that, and that's why it kind of picked up. So, but back to like Vegas and other places, yeah. And there's countries that have now used it as their main form of currency. There's a country in
Wow, I didn't know that.
Central America, El Salvador, right? I believe Bitcoin is their main currency. The Central African Republic is another country that's in Africa, and there's other places where you can use Bitcoin readily. Vegas being one. You can go to a store, buy something with crypto, or go to the gas station. You now see what we call Bitcoin ATM machines. They're all over the place. Matter of fact, I was in Vegas a few weeks ago, and I was in the Virgin hotel, and I literally saw a Bitcoin ATM machine in the hotel, and I'm like, wow,
Wow.
like
Wow.
that's crazy, right? So now you can use your money or in your crypto to go gamble or to do whatever you want to do in the casino, right? So yeah, I mean it's taken off, and I think it's only going to be morely used, especially it's going to be used more, especially with more people getting into it.
I'm going through articles, right? Um, they're saying that this is an article that Bitcoin could go to 150K by the end of the year.
Absolutely, and I would actually be shocked if that's actually a low estimate, quite frankly.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, with the halving event coming up in the next couple of months, where the supply is going to be cut in half, and it's going to be harder for miners to mine the coin, and then with more and more people getting into it, with especially like I said with these ETFs, I think a more accurate estimate will probably be more so than 200. Um, yeah, yeah. Because look at it now. We're at our all time high. Like we're approaching that, right? And we're in the early stages of major trading platforms finally having Bitcoin, right? So when and right now the market's actually pretty good. Like as you said, like the market just reached its all time high a couple of days ago, right? And so with more people wanting to get in, more people wanting to invest, you're going to continue to see that ticking up.
Can you say millionaires everywhere?
It's going to make a lot of first time millionaires. I mean, that's what it did the first time, right? And
Yeah.
that was actually before it hit its all time high. This was actually when it was around 30,000, where people were like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna cash out now, because
Yeah.
they've been in space.
When I went to Dubai, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on that when that first happened, he said, "Man, all of these millionaires just came." Because I was like, you go to Dubai and it's nice. You know what I'm saying? They got $1 million cars everywhere, $500,000. I'm like, how are all these people rich? I'm sitting in the cab, cryptocurrency. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So this go around, it's going to happen again. History repeats itself. So, you know, happy for them, man. Happy for
I
them.
mean, and now we're seeing even cities just being completely run on crypto. There's a crypto city off I forgot what the name is. It's a little town actually on an island where everything is based on crypto, where like crypto millionaires are now going, and they've been pouring a lot of money into Central America too. So yeah, it's crazy. I mean, to think, this is where we are 10 years ago. It's like, wow, like I can't believe that. I mean, people have been so programmed to using fiat currency or just using their bank, just using cash or their debit card to pay for things. Now they're using digital currencies. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you able to bring the presentation up or?
You know what? I got so caught up in this stuff. I
Okay.
actually haven't been. Is this it? This is Charles Schwab. No, that's S&P 500. And this is not even the most accurate one. When I find it, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
You could probably put it up. But yeah, no, Bitcoin. Actually, I could probably just pull it up on this. No, that's right, because the ETF just got approved. Never mind.
Oh man, it's fine, man. You dropped so many gems today, man. I'm gonna watch this over and over, man, for sure. I really appreciate that. I try to keep these
Absolutely.
around 30 minutes, so
I know, and there's a lot to talk about.
yep. So, man, we appreciate you for stopping by, dropping some knowledge. Short notice, but we needed this, man. We needed someone to break it down a little bit, especially for me, for myself. So, we definitely appreciate that. And,
You're
yep.
welcome. You're welcome. I'm happy to be here, man. I mean, I think financial advice or just giving people a different financial perspective is always good.
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully we'll have you back again, man.
Absolutely, man. I hope so. Oh, actually, so I found it.
Oh, you
I
found it?
used Chat GBT to get me to it.
Oh man.
So, can I share
Hey,
my
don't
screen?
yeah. If don't get me started about Chat GPT. I think we just had a interview or podcast show a couple days ago on that. So
It's a very powerful tool, man. I mean, it's crazy that we have like computers that now can think for us, right?
yeah. I just amazed at how fast they improve. You know, I'm trying to
Oh
keep
yeah.
up.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah, yeah. So let me do this. Present, right? Okay. Share screen. Ooh, this is interesting. So can you see my? Oh wait. Oh, this is neat. Can you see
Oh,
it?
I gotta add it to stage.
Ah,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, it's there. We can see it.
Yeah. And this is just off for the last 5 years. So all I did was ask GBT to create a Bitcoin chart comparison to Nasdaq over 5 years, and I think this chart is pretty
No,
self-explanatory.
no way. That's real?
Yeah.
No way. Wow. 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 Jeez. Yeah. Yeah. Well, nothing more to say to that.
Interesting.
That's very interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. Jeez.
Let me see if it can show one of Bitcoin versus Nasdaq versus S&P 500. Anything else you want to put in there? Tesla, right? Because Tesla is one of those companies where,
Hey man, that's my stock, man. You know that.
yeah.
Can't go wrong. Hey, don't listen to any advice either. You know, do your own research.
Do your own research, of course. All right. Analyzing. It's just amazing how this stuff can like just create things for you.
You know they can create movies now.
You know what? I heard about that. Yeah. Yeah.
I've actually tried it. Yeah, with actors, they can create the actors. They can. Yeah, it's wild, man. There we go. There we go.
Wow.
Wow.
And I thought Tesla was doing numbers.
They, hey, they are. They had a couple, you know, bumps on the road recently, but yeah, they are. But yeah, compared to Bitcoin, jeez. So wow. Well, there you have it. There you have it. Chat GBT. It's got to be true, right?
It's going to replace all of us soon.
Yes. Yes. So it's not going to stop creativity, though.
Absolutely not. There's always going
Yep.
to be a space for that.
Yep. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. And thanks for taking the time. I learned a lot, and I'm sure whoever watches this video is going to learn a lot as well. So if you can, leave your questions at the bottom and we'll try to get to them if we can. Or, you know, if we can't, we'll definitely respond either way. So all right. Thanks
All right, man.
again. See you. Bye.